Let's start by introducing what the database system is. So what is a database? Database is an organized collection of data, generally stored and accessed electronically from a computer system. That's a database definition from Wikipedia. You can see it's a place to store data. Basically, fundamentally, it's a place to store data. Human being has been using data ever since civilization began, ever since human beings start to understand how to calculate 1 + 1 = 2. So this, what you see here is a census file. It's a papyrus from the late New Kingdom, about 1000 BC in ancient Egyptian time. It's a papyrus of census, writing down someone 1000 years ago, writing down the house and the owner in one village, each house and its owner in the village. This is basically a census is about. And if you think about this piece of information, this piece of data, we are able to see it today because it was stored somewhere safe, right? So if you think about the ancient Egypt census, some officials in the village will collect and record data on papyrus, what we call a persistent media, some media that can be saved somewhere, can be stored somewhere safely for a long time. This media is delivered to and stored in the National Archive and organized for search. And some official in the National Archive will perform statistics on the data and then report the result to pharaohs. So when pharaohs want to know how many soldiers he can enlist from each village, he can go to the official and ask for the information, and the official will go to the archive, pull out those data, and start calculating and provide this information to the pharaoh. So human after 3,000 years, and this is what we have, modern databases. It's IBM 1790 data processing system in 1959. After 3,000 years, we are using different tool. Instead of papyrus, we now have something called computer, right? But the fundamental workflow is still the same. If you think about what the US Census, the Bureau of Census do to their data in the early age of computer system. So the official in each state will still collect mail-in forms similar to the papyrus that you just saw. And officials will record data on a persistent media. Same way here, punch card or some kind of electronic magnetic tape. They will store the information in this media. And in these days, in 21st century, you probably will use a hard drive, a magnetic hard drive, or solid state storage drive. Whatever it is a persistent media. You save the data, you collect the data from forms from each individual household, and record data on a persistent media. Media is delivered to and stored in the computer archive and organized for search. Then when the federal government wants to know what's the information, what the information the census can deliver, right? What's the size, the population of each state, how many representatives should come from each state, the federal government will go to the officials in some census bureau. And these officials will work on the data and provide statistic results to whoever requests it. So you can see the modern way is the same way as ancient way. We haven't improved much in this process, but nowadays we do have a more powerful tool. So the idea of database is not new. Database is there 1,000 years ago, 3,000 years ago, but the tool we use to work on this on database is rather new. It's a computer system that we are using, right? So when you start the database system and when you start the data science, always remember that there's nothing new in the process. The only thing new is just a tool. So it's always common sense, always our rules. Any machine or any machine rules or any machine mandate. So this is very important. Lesson number one on this data management system and data science. Common sense should always rule. So what is a database? Now, data is stored in some persistent media. These days, it's always electronic media and organized for retrieval. This storage is called database. The storage is managed by a computer application, right? This computer application, just like those officials in charge of the archive. If you need to access that data, you go to these officials, and these officials also are in charge of the storage and organization of the data. These days, it's done by a computer application. This application manages database. It is called a database management system, or sometimes, a lot of times, it's written as DBMS. Then finally, different clients talk to DBMS for data access and management. When you want to know how many soldiers are from each village, or when you want to know how many people live in a state, you go to the DBMS to access the data, to read it. The whole ecosystem of database, data management system, and client is called a database system. So let's illustrate this with a chart. And here, to the left of the chart, we have hard disks, a bunch of hard disk-like thing. These are actually computer hardware, usually hard drives. That's where database is stored. To the right of the picture, we have a different access, different clients. They will access the database, retrieve data, and getting statistics. In between database and clients, it's a DBMS. It manages data and manages user connection and deliver data per user request. So a DBMS serves as an interface between database and its end user program, allowing users to retrieve, update, and manage how the information is organized and optimized. This is the first part of DBMS definition by Oracle. It tells you database DBMS allows user to retrieve, update, and manage data, right? And this is the part that is most relevant to data science students, because your job mainly is to retrieve data and maybe update it and to try to make sense of the data, right? So retrieve and update is the most important task that you will be performing. The second part of this definition is a DBMS also facilitates oversight and control of database, enabling a variety of administrative operations, such as performance monitoring, tuning, and backup and recovery. And you can easily see that this is more like management of the database, of the storage. It's not so relevant to the data itself. It's more like a common administrative function. These are also important, but these are usually not performed by data scientists. These are usually performed by the information technology guy. Those are hiding behind in the server room, and you usually don't see them until you cannot access database, right? So these are not the main topic of our course. Our course will be mostly focusing on the retrieval and the update side of DBMS. By the way, this definition comes from Oracle. Oracle is one of the most successful DBMS vendor. Database and the DBMS usually reside on a server due to the volume of data. So modern day database are huge. It easily goes to terabytes of data, if not petabyte of data. So it's not some data that you will store on your laptop. Instead, you do expect somewhere in the server room, you have a bunch of racks holding those computers and holding those hard disks. That's where the modern day database are stored, and that's what DBMS are accessing. So These are on the servers or multiple servers. But for you, when you want, as a user, want to access the data, you will connect to DBMS from a client software. This client software typically, will be small, will be slow, will be installed on your machine. You will access data by running those software, either browser or browser-based application. For example, pgadmin, that's the one that we are going to use. And another very popular software is dbeaver. I will show you how the pgadmin works in next session. And for the entirety of this course, we will be using pgadmin to access our data and to perform to work on our assignments. Our assignment will be done and verified from pgadmin. You also, excuse me, you can also use computer scripts or programs to access data, like Python or Java. We will briefly go over how to use Python to access data in our course.